My mommy had HIV. Then my mommy died. My daddy took me to the orphanage.
I was infected with HIV at birth. I got it through my mother. When I was told I believe I was 8 years old, I'm afraid of meeting the right girl and marrying her and having children, because I don't want to spread the virus to her and having her having the virus and the kids.
But my mom told me I was born with HIV, which over the years I got to know what it was. But it was a sad moment, like one of my saddest moments.
My dad got sick in February of 1998, and he just started having memory loss problems and just forgetting where his keys were, what his name was, like what his birthday, and it started progressing pretty rapidly. And he got to the point where he was unresponsive to us in about June of 1998, and that's when my mom they went to the doctor, and finally they decided to test him and test her, and they both came back positive. My family did not find out the diagnosis until I was 5. I personally did not find out that I was positive until I was 11.
Well, every year we went to this camp called Camp Boggy Creek. And one year they decided that the kids have to know why they're coming there. Well, I have to tell you something. I was like, what? She was like, well, I have to tell you why you go to Camp Boggy Creek. Oh, you have HIV, you got it from your mom. I was like, oh, what is that? I was only like 7 or 8.
There were 2 girls who I was concerned about, and I was like, well, they should probably get tested, but they wouldn't get tested unless everyone else did. And so I got tested. I was HIV positive, and that was April 29, 2011.
I wasn't careful. I tend to, seem like I probably wasn't caring at the time. But when I found out that I had it, which was the beginning of 2014 this year, on January the 9th, it was very shocking to me. Like, it stunned me a lot. Caught me where I couldn't sleep for days. I couldn't eat anything. I thought it was going to, take life away from me.
First one was born in 1981. I was infected then, but didn't know it. At that time, it didn't even have a real name. It was referred to as GRID, gay-related immunodeficiency. Then it turned into HTLV3, and then into HIV.
My mommy had HIV. Then I started having it from her. It's something where you can die from it, and if you don't take medicines, that's when you die. And if you do take medicines, you'll be really healthy and strong.
We were going to adopt from Vietnam, but then they had closed their doors and they weren't doing adoptions anymore. So we kind of said, well, we'll pray about it and see where we want to adopt and wherever God led us. And it ended up being Ethiopia. And in the beginning, we only asked for 1 child and a healthy child.
There were so many kids on waiting lists because they had HIV. And I was like, here we're waiting for a healthy baby when there's these kids that are waiting and they have HIV. When we saw his picture, we're like, he's ours. There's no doubt about it. So we pursued him, and then a few months after we started the paperwork, we got a call from the agency saying that they had a 10-month-old little boy with HIV. Then we ended up adopting 2 at the same time. In Ethiopia, if you're HIV positive, a lot of them are they're outcasts, and he wouldn't let us kiss him. He would allow us to hug him, but he would say I'm yucky, and then when we would tell him we love him, he would say no love, and so that was heartbreaking.
One night when I was sleeping and I waked up and I saw something which I didn't know what it was, but it was a lizard. And I screamed. Then the next morning, my mommy died. This is me, and that's my dad, and these are my other family. I do not know what their name is. And that's my mom. We buried her. When Ed gets older, I'm going to tell him that HIV is not a big problem. You just need to take your medicine every day.
And the nation was shocked again at the sight of the most pathetic victims of AIDS, babies afflicted in their mother's wombs.
Perinatal intervention has been one of the things that has really turned the tide in HIV. If there's no intervention in terms of the mother receiving HIV medications, there's still about a 25% chance that the baby will be born with HIV. And with the medications that we have now, there's about a 1 to 2% chance. So that's very effective in terms of prevention. During a pregnancy, they screen mothers in their first trimester and then the third trimester for HIV. If the mother is positive, and we know she's positive beforehand, we are making sure that she takes her HIV medications. And then we also give HIV medication at the time of birth. The third part of that is giving the baby HIV medication as a prevention method. So all those three methods help to bring that rate from 25% down to 1%.
1983, the government, the scientific establishment, the American people were still ignoring AIDS. It was, after all, a disease of homosexuals, and now of intravenous drug users. Easy to ignore. However, the virus spread through blood transfusions. Anyone could get it now, even school children.
No AIDS in public school! 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 No AIDS in public school!
Because of the lack of education on AIDS, discrimination, fear, panic, and lies surrounded me. I became the target of Ryan White jokes. Lies about me biting people, spitting on vegetables and cookies in grocery stores, and urinating on bathroom walls. Some restaurants threw away my dishes, and my locker was vandalized inside, and folders were marked fag and other obscenities. I was labeled a troublemaker, my mom an unfit mother, and I was not welcome anywhere. People would get up and leave so they would not have to sit anywhere near me. Even at church, people would not shake my hand.
Most of our young people today weren't around 20 years ago or 30 years ago when HIV first came, and they didn't see the death and dying. They weren't around when every other person that you knew who had HIV passed away from it. So they have a real kind of Superman complex is what I call it, they don't think it'll happen to them. They don't think they'll get it. So when you have to take it, that medication every day, it's a reminder that you have HIV.
I was put on medication when I was 5 years old, and I was taking 32 plus pills a day, no questions asked. When I was about 14, I switched medications to a new medication. It was called Atripla. It was a 1 pill once a day, and it was supposed to be fabulous. It was supposed to take away all of your worries of taking so many medications. I broke out in a rash, head to toe for 10 days, which was normal. It was very painful. And then I was fine. I was on the medication for about 3 years, and I started noticing some problems with my short-term memory. So I presented it to my doctors, and they said that it wasn't really, that they hadn't really heard of that before, and it wasn't really anything to really worry about. We actually found out that I did have some short-term memory loss problems, and so I went away to school, and I just kind of really broke down. I couldn't really get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to go to class ever, and I wasn't retaining the information when I would go to class. I was diagnosed with a sleep disorder. I had to do a sleep study. They put me on all these different anxiety meds and sleep medication. Just kind of felt like a zombie every day. So she put me on a new medication called Stribild, And Stribild made me gain 37 pounds in less than a month, and I just kind of became really depressed and having really bad anxiety attacks again. And I switched again, and they put me on some really common regime that's been around since the 90s, and only 3% of people have an allergic reaction to it. So 10 days after switching, I had an allergic reaction and broke out head to toe, had to go to the emergency room. It was just really scary. It was hard to deal with. And I actually made the decision after doing some research and talking to my doctors to just go off my medicine entirely.
I think it just becomes overwhelming for some of our young people to have to manage all of this medication. And if you think about other young people who don't have this on top of everything else, they're still struggling out there, so having medication that you have to take every day is an added burden.